I don't have any sleigh bells. Hello, and welcome to Shaking and Sipping. This is the show where we normally shake or stir a drink from the IBA's list of official cocktails and dig into their history, talk about some variants, see where they stack up on that list, and just have a lot of fun with that. But this week, it is the holiday season. Christmas is just in a few days. I believe when this video posts, Hanukkah will be just ending or have just ended. New Year's is coming. Lots of other festive times for various folks. So we're going to have an episode talking a bit about that. Now, unfortunately, from my opinion, this time of year you do see a lot of holiday drinks. And they're things that tend to have candy cane crusted rims on the glass, or weird twists on what someone thinks eggnog is, or other brightly colored, incredibly minty sorts of things. I don't really think we need any of that around our holiday table. In many ways, I think the holidays are a good time to just keep it simple and just have something enjoyable. You're going to typically have a lot of fun foods and get-togethers and snacks. Just open something that goes with those. That could be a nice red. That could be something like the Stinger or Goodnight Irene that we made a few weeks back that I think is a lovely, slightly minty, but very traditional, dry, lovely cocktail for any time. Make a gin and tonic. Juniper. Tastes like Christmas. Or finally, just open a beer. But if you want to make a holiday-centric drink, make one that's good. So today we're going to look at a classic recipe. This is based on a recipe from Esquire in 1949. I'm getting it through Paul Clark and then tweaking it slightly. But this is a classic flaming rum punch. This is a great thing to serve, great for a party setting because you generally make it in a large batch, and it's something that you want to drink whilst it's still warm. So if you've got 8 to 12 people at your party, this will be a tremendous amount of fun. It's pretty easy to make, and it looks pretty impressive. So let's talk a bit about what our components are going to be, and then we'll get into the process of putting it together. So this is a rum punch. I think traditionally this would be made with a Jamaican rum. I think that Appleton VX, or whatever they're currently calling Appleton VX, I can never remember the new name, would be sort of the ideal here, and I was considering using that, but they were out of that at my liquor store. I think a second great option is a Bajan or a Barbados rum. Here, with either Jamaican or Bajan rums, I think that you want something good. You don't want Johnny's $9 Jamaican rum, but this is not a place to go crazy. There's going to be a lot of flavors in here. We're going to burn some of it off anyway. So I'm using Mount Gay Eclipse, which is a lovely rum, very reasonably priced. This is not where I would pull out the Mount Gay Extra, for example, which is a 2.5 times the price. Amazing rum, but it would just be lost here. I'm also going to use a little bit of the Plantation Overproof. This is a really cool product. It's about 140 proof. It's got some really interesting notes to it. I'm just going to use a little bit of this, both to give us a little bit of extra funk and to make it really easy to light, because this will have plenty of fuel for our fire. Our main mixer is going to be apple cider. Now I know that cider doesn't necessarily translate around the world entirely. There are, of course, alcoholic hard ciders. This is not that. This is sort of a very unfiltered apple juice. So depending on where you are in the world, this may not exist as apple cider, but this is an unfiltered, pressed apple juice, traditionally made right toward the end of the season, sometimes in olden days even with apples that had just like already fallen. Nowadays they generally pick them first, but this is a local Washington state apple cider. Those are our main liquid components. We're going to have an orange, though it's going to be in an interesting presentation. I've got one clove studded and roasting in the oven as we speak, which we're not going to squeeze it. You could add orange juice and it'd be lovely, but it's not entirely necessary. We're mostly going to get some of the orange goodness coming out after it's been roasted and softened, and also we're going to get all of the oils out of the skin by them being in contact with burning rum. Finally, for spices, as I mentioned, the orange in the oven now is clove studded, so we're certainly going to get some clove in there. We're going to have some fresh nutmeg in there. Allspice is an option here, whether that's some freshly ground allspice, or if you have any pimento dram or allspice liqueur lying around, this would be a great place to use some. I don't have any at the moment. I think we'll be making some on a future episode, but I'm out of my stock. And then finally, the classic flavor of cinnamon. Now, quick aside on cinnamon, these two things are both sometimes called cinnamon. This is true cinnamon. It goes by various names, but this is true cinnamon. It's a lighter color. It's a very sort of thin, flaky, just kind of crumbles sort of product. This is cassia or kasha. This is what is typically sold as like ground cinnamon. This is much spicier. This is much more complex, but very mild. In this drink, I think you could go either way, but if you're going to use true cinnamon, you'd need quite a bit more of it. It's a little bit of a pain to grate. So despite my normal sort of feelings on the differences between these two products, I'm going to be using some pre-ground cinnamon, which really is cassia. Alright, that's all of our ingredients. I'm going to clear off the space here and wait for the orange to be done in the oven. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and heat up some apple cider. Not quite boiling, but getting near it. And we're also going to heat up a little bit of our rum. Now, you would want to do this not over a gas stove ideally, or else you're going to get your flaming punch going a bit too early. So if you're making the full batch of this recipe, it uses the whole bottle. So they say just put the bottle in a water bath. I'm making a quite cut down version, so I will just carefully heat some of these over an electric element in a pan. I'm going to get all of that stuff going, and then I'll come back here when we can put it all together. Alright, just a couple notes and then we'll be ready to begin. First of all, I realize that this well-used baking sheet is not the most aesthetic thing, but I do not have a proper punch bowl, so just as a safety in case there are any bowl integrity issues during the flaming or I spill anything, this will give us a nice amount of containment. I also, of course, have a lid on hand so that I could cover any sort of flame up if we weren't able to stop it otherwise. And there's obviously a fire extinguisher that I definitely have that's out of shot that we won't talk about anymore. So I've also preheated the bowl. We want everything warm, so I've just added some boiling water to it, let that sit for a while, and just dump that out. Let's grab our orange and let's get to work. Alright, so I have my studded orange here. If you were making the full version of this, you'd have 6 of these, and it'd hopefully even be a little bit softer. I'm going to actually cut mine in half just to be sure I get nice coverage because I won't have that much liquid. That's not necessary if it's roasted through enough, as some will leak out in general. Also, you could definitely wear a glove while doing this if one was intelligent, but not entirely necessary. Now to get final couple pieces in, we're going to want to add some sugar. I've got some Demarara or turbinado sugar. This is all very much to taste. I'm going to use a heaping bar spoon and maybe just a bit more. Do whatever feels right to you. Finally, I'm going to prep our Overproof. I'm going to pour 30 milliliters, or about 1 ounce of that, which we'll be using in just a moment. And then I have a nutmeg and my cinnamon. I'm going to add my warmed rum. This is again the Mount Gay Eclipse, something like that, or something like the Appleton VX would be very nice here. And be very careful when you warm this. With all parts of a drink like this, if you don't feel entirely comfortable making it, don't make it. Fire is a thing. Alright, it's now time for the magic to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that ounce we poured out, 30 milliliters, into my ladle here. I don't know if I mentioned it when I was adding the main warmed rum to the dish, but that is 120 milliliters, or 4 ounces. I'm now going to make sure that everything is clear here. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm gonna make sure there's nothing above this or near this that might be a fire issue, and there is not. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn up the lights, and I'm gonna take a torch here, and we've got some nice fire. We're just gonna slowly pour that on. Now that that's burning, we're going to add our nutmeg. And our cinnamon. Get those nice little cinnamon sparkles. And then we're going to slowly add about 315 milliliters of apple cider, which again has been warmed. I'll do that ounce conversion in the description below because I can't think of what it would be. Pouring that in will put out most, if not all, of your flame. And with the lights back on, I'm going to give that a little stir with the ladle here. I'm going to give the oranges just a bit of a press. And that is our flaming rum punch. Now, if you have a nice punch bowl, you hopefully have some nice punch goblets or mugs to go with it. I, as we've noted, do not. But in the Christmas spirit, I do have this absolutely ridiculous mug wearing a sweater thing that exists. So we're gonna go ahead and get a nice ladle full for that. And again, if I didn't mention before, I will put the full quantity recipe in the description below so that you can easily scale this for whatever your holiday events might be. All right, and here it is, our lovely flaming rum punch. Oh, so the nose is all of that orange caramel sort of vibe. And some spices. I get a little bit of the nutmeg, I get a lot of the clove. Ah, that's so warm and lovely. So it's immediately sweet. It's the apple cider as well as the Demarara, but then the sweetness gets pulled back really quickly into an orangey place. And it's not an orange juice place, though again, some folks like to add orange juice to this type of punch, and that's fine. In this case, it really is the orange oils, and specifically the slightly caramelized, almost slightly burnt parts of the orange oils from when we were literally burning them, right? And so they still play with the sweetness, but make you sort of step back a second and go, oh, that's now a little bit dark, a little bit rich, less sweet, just a hair of bitterness. And then that rum funk shows up. And again, it's not crazy funky. Eclipse isn't Smith and Cross, but there is that little bit of slight unripe fruits, sort of banana, sort of funk going on that then shows up right at the end there. Or not the end, but the back half of the palate. And then those spices are just what's left sort of dancing behind. So you end up with this nice bit of clove and cinnamon just to end off. And what a great drink it is. What a fun little spectacle it is, especially if you did it on a larger scale and had a proper looking punch bowl. I think there's a lot of fun to be had with this drink. Well, thanks so much for coming along with me this week on our rum punch adventure. I hope that you can try something like this if you're hosting a party for which it would be relevant. Otherwise, I encourage you to, drink whatever you like over the holidays, and if that includes weird candy cane drinks, that's perfectly fine. But if not, don't feel pressured into such a thing. Just enjoy whatever you enjoy this holiday. Whatever you're celebrating, if you're celebrating, I hope it's going well. I'll be back next week with the first drink in section 2 of the IBA's list. Very exciting. And we'll go from there on another long IBA journey. Until then, happy sipping, happy Christmas, cheers.